probably just get started. This is the December koha-US Web Dev thing, um, where we talk about breaking Koha and doing cool stuff. Does anybody have any cool stuff they would like to share? Could be a short meeting. I mean, I don't have anything to show really, but I have a concept of an idea of something I need to happen that I haven't figured out yet that we could talk about. Um, and there's a bug, which I found earlier, so I'll put that in the chat. So the idea is one of my libraries wants to offer delivery services for their patrons. And they don't want to do like homebound delivery. They want it to be like Uber Eats, where when the patron places the hold, they can elect to have it delivered at that point. And then when the hold comes, the library knows to route it to their delivery van and take it out to the patron. So my initial thought was I could leverage hold notes and put in there, patron wants it delivered, but there's no hold notes in the OPAC. So the only way I can think of like doing it without a development is to make a separate branch and then have I can make like a checkbox that says delivery and then it changes the branch when they check the box. And then I can leverage that on the back end and in the notices and stuff so that it routes correctly. I don't really want to make a new branch, but I can't think of any other way to make it work.
I don't know if this would work, but have you explored the curbside pickups module? Would that do it?
I played with it a little bit when it first came out, but I haven't looked at it since it became base code. So how does it work?
That I can't tell you like off the top of my head.
I was testing a bug the other day, and I haven't used it in real life, but basically you can queue things holds up, and then you can assign them a pickup delivery spot. When they turn up, you can have time slots for each library. So yeah, just if you're thinking of a courier pickup, it takes care of adding it to a queue basically, and then you can assign them a time. Yeah.
Just turned it on.
I don't know whether that would work or whether some extension to it. Yeah. Yeah, you have to turn on the curbside plugin module, and then in the admin area, for each library, you go and set up the pickup times and frequencies, and then it gives you the queue and circulation, I think.
I'll have to play with that a little bit. I guess my main question is like, is there an OPAC facing option? And I don't know if anybody would know that off the top of their head either, but we lost Lucas. um, the the main thing is I need to, and it doesn't like it still doesn't make sense, right? So like they put the hold on and say they want it delivered, just that item, and then it could take 2 months or longer because we've got a huge hold list for it to get to the library. And maybe by then they've decided they don't actually want it delivered. They want to come pick it up. Like there needs to be some other piece in there that I haven't worked out yet. But at this point, my thought was that if I could leverage it in the notice, that they get the text message or whatever when the hold is confirmed could say, this is scheduled for delivery. If you want to pick it up instead, please call us before whatever time the deliveries go out that day. I think it would be a cool feature if I can flesh out what I actually want. I just haven't figured that out yet. Yeah.
We had one library that that did something like kind of similar, I guess. Not really exactly, but they had like a nearby business that had open hours much more than the library did, and so they wanted to allow patrons to be able to say, I want to pick it up over at this it was like another like an after school nonprofit kind of organization. Um, so what they did was you could add a pickup, you could add a note when you place the hold that you wanted to pick it up offsite, and then when the library checked in the hold, they would know to put it in this other thing, and then they brought it to the offsite pickup spot. So that
So
it used the same branch. It just had a hold note, and that hold note um, got printed in the hold slip so that when they're processing the delivery, they know to process those differently.
the from what I understand, hold notes are only on the staff side, so only staff are placing those sorts of holds, or do you have a way to make that work where the patron can put it in their note?
Um,
I could be missing something too. Like I might have a system preference turned off that says allow hold notes in the OPEC, but I couldn't find one.
we use Aspen, so it's totally
Oh,
different.
you use Aspen.
But
That's the piece I'm missing. The tiny
oh,
little piece.
and I think this project was also implemented like back when we were using Sierra too, so it was kind of an older project, but it was something like that.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, well, that gave me some things to think about and ideas on things to try for sure. I know that I have a library that does like low-tech hold lockers too. I needed to see what their process is because I think it has to all be happening outside of Koha. But if I could get this working, then I could also use that for their hold locker situation maybe.
Yeah, I think that would be another use case, although we don't have any libraries that have hold lockers, but we have one library that has this thing called AutoLend. It's like a vending machine kind of thing, and you can go and authenticate with your library card and then take a book right out of the machine. But
Yeah.
um, that could possibly be set up as a pickup location, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. But it could be maybe like creating some kind of like having the ability to have a pickup location that's not a full branch. It's just like a sub pickup location of the branch would be.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a bug about that because that's what I really need. Like I don't want to set up a whole separate branch for this, but I need like well, I could use desks maybe because desks are meant to like route things within a building. So I could have like a delivery desk where the whole gets routed. I don't know how that looks on the patron side either though. Like if they can choose that as the pickup location within the library. Because we've never used the desks feature either. Turn like everything on my test server. Like throw everything at it and something will stick, right? Um, yeah, that was my sort of conundrum for the week. I haven't heard the month. I haven't really had time to play lately. I'm working on other projects, so I don't have anything else exciting to talk about. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Bugs or uh cool stuff? I haven't looked at the 2411 release either. I know that's probably something we should do just to see if there's anything cool there.
Yeah, there's been a couple of nice posts and things, and the latest. I was going to say, I was going to try and figure out how to say TTEOVT. Uh, Christopher and uh, George's thing. They looked at the which just came out. They looked at the notices where you can view the default notice and copy it in. So that's quite a nice little change. And Monday Minutes have been just recently started doing some 24/11 things. Catalyst, I'll do something on the. I've been a bit slack on the Koha social media. Catalyst IT in New Zealand did a webinar on 24/11, so as well. So there's a bit of pickup in some of the new features and things. So, but yeah, it seems reasonably stable. I think last time the 2405, there was a couple of big changes which have taken a while. That was the whole your items table changing to the API, and then that CSRF. There's still a few bugs, but I think you've got one there. I've got one there too. I think Andrew signed that one off. You were working on, Brendan, I think.
Oh yeah, thank you for looking at that.
But yeah, there's still seems to be a few of those CSRF ones, but not to the same extent there was initially. So, but yeah, I haven't come across too much bug testing so far with 20 on main yet. So after 24/11, so it's looking okay.
Good news.
I haven't really. It's as the old thing of trying to digest the release notes and the long list of everything.
Yeah, we have time as Bywater customers at least, because it'll probably be several months before we get updated again. But
yeah, I guess
it's always nice to start looking at them just to see if there's anything exciting or we want to play with or test out.
I'm sure there is. Yeah. So there was an interesting chat in the Mattermost about devolved into DRM, and someone wants to prevent downloading and printing of PDFs that you've added to your catalog, and that's a really hard problem without using DRM. So and I likened it to the koha. Originally it was like, how hard can it be to, there's a whole article about that, but yeah, but the whole DRM thing to prevent downloading or expiring or not copying, so it's a really hard problem. I don't know much about it, but I just know it's hard. And anything you do with PDFs, if you add DRM, I haven't tried it, but the impression I get is really easy to break as well. It's really easy to circumvent, but I don't know whether that's the case or not. But I guess that's why people use the ebooks providers, and that takes care of things when they do things.
Yeah, we don't store any digital files within Koha itself. It would be cool to have, ownership over our own stuff, but basically we run it from the platforms because that's the best, easiest way to do it. Oh, speaking of that, I've been having issues with Hoopla, and it sounds like there's some like wider issue with Hoopla. I thought it was like zip related, but I don't know. Bywater's working on it for us. But I like my library. I had a library contact me about it, and then this morning I got another call, and then we noticed that one of the other Kansas libraries had like put up a notice that it was broken. So I don't know what's going on with it, but it's not authenticating, so people can't use it just in time for all that time off that they have for the holidays when they want to check out ebooks. So
Yay.
that's been a current headache.
Yeah. What are the popular ones in the US? I know here in New Zealand there's and Overdrive, obviously. A lot of libraries use Overdrive here, and my local library uses one called Borrow Box, but probably I hadn't heard of that before, but yeah, Overdrive seems to be one of the big ones, isn't it?
Yeah, we have an Overdrive consortium in Kansas called the Sunflower E-Library that a lot of libraries have opted into, and then we use for the statewide platform we're using 3M Cloud it's Cloud Library now, I guess.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I found it
Our
interesting.
state uses Overdrive too.
Yeah. Right. Mm.
And then
Um,
for the libraries, like individually, some of them have Hoopla or Canopy, I would say are the two bigger ones.
right. Mm. Yeah, I know. I do a bit with Wikipedia and Wikisource, which is transcribing openly licensed or out of copyright books. And Overdrive, and one of the um, he was working at a library. He scanned and we had a project to make the some of their historical out of copyright books that were in the special lending area. Scanned them and end up having an EPUB available. You can add those, libraries can add those to Overdrive, so which was quite interesting way to get increase the usage of stuff that's restricted, as long as the licensing's open. But that's not web dev things, but interesting tangent.
That's okay. Like I said, don't really have an agenda, so we can talk about whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm not sure what the if there's any focus for 2505. I think they're still working on the roadmap, but yeah, I keep on the bugs for sign off. I keep on trying to do if I see any that are related to the OPAC, trying to improve the OPAC, I keep on trying to sign off those if I can. But yeah, I guess a lot of libraries are now using Aspen or VU Find. And in New Zealand, I think people tend to use VU Find rather than Aspen, but for the patron interface. But
We're still using the vanilla OPAC. I did come up with a
you've got your children's OPAC.
Yeah, we've got the children's
there.
OPAC in
Yeah.
addition to the regular koha OPAC, which I haven't worked on that at all either. Um, where is that? Oh,
Sometimes I
renewing.
wish that we used the Koha OPAC because it's just always complicating things that the discovery layer is separate, and any enhancement that goes into Koha you have to think how is it going to work in Aspen and vice versa too. Like if something gets developed in Aspen, you have to be like, well, how are we going to get it to work? So it just kind of creates a lot of extra investigation, I guess.
Yeah,
Mm.
we've just been hesitant. Well, first because the cost, but um, really the main thing we want from it is record grouping, which is something that koha can't do for holds. Um, but it sounds like that's being worked on a little bit. So yeah, and it is mostly the cost that's prohibiting us from switching over to Aspen. But also like it seems like it would be a bunch more work, and we don't have. I mean, like managing Koha is my job here, and like I would want someone else to take on Aspen if we do that. So I'm okay with just hanging back and um, watching it develop itself a little further before we jump on board with it. And we're not
And with
dissatisfied with the Koha OPAC, so
with Aspen, I feel like the cataloging of your items really matters a lot for it to be good, I guess.
Mm.
So you need like a really good person for cataloging to figure out like how the things should be cataloged so they get grouped properly and all that stuff in Aspen.
Mm. Did
It's
you have
kind
to
of
do a
beyond
lot of
me.
Did you have to do a lot of work tidying up your cataloging data, or did someone work on that?
Yeah, I think we did it kind of like when we migrated to Koha, we implemented Koha and Aspen at the same time.
Oh, right.
Also, I don't recommend that. But at the same time, it kind of worked out because we did it at the same time to get it over with. But yeah, there was a lot of cleanup and uh, figuring out the item type. In Aspen, there's a table called the format map table, I think it is. And it basically determines the format that things are grouped under based on various different things on the item records. And that table is kind of like that table along with good standard cataloging is like the whole key. Otherwise, um, things don't look the way that they should, and things are harder to find. And well, so,
Yeah, I guess
anyways, that's a
cataloging's the
tangent.
core, really, isn't it? Obviously, patrons and your circulation rules, but how you catalog things, if you don't catalog it right, it makes it harder to find things, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
that's an ongoing battle for us. Quality cataloging is hard to come by sometimes, especially when we're largely copy cataloging. So we're always just going out and grabbing somebody else's record. We had a situation the other day where they couldn't find a record for some Netflix movie that they bought, so they just duplicated a Stranger Things record, and they didn't change any of the encoding fields, and they left the OCLC number in there. And our statewide uh, service group things the others too. So when somebody requested that item, they wound up getting a copy of Stranger Things because they hadn't done a good job cataloging at all. So I imagine that's sort of the same thing with Aspen. If your cataloging lets it group a way it shouldn't group, then you're gonna have messes. That's the whole challenge with that verbalization thing.
A question, if anyone knows, there was a query in chat or email a while ago. They wanted to change on the staff interface. They wanted to change what the default search was. It defaults to checkout, but they wanted to change it to search the catalog or something. And I'm sure I've seen some some custom JS to do that, but I couldn't find it in the library. Does anyone have anyone done that? I'm sure it's possible with JavaScript, but yeah. But if you can't think if you can think of anything off the top of your head where I could look, that would be good. But
I think
it was a
if you
few
look
weeks
at
ago.
maybe look at, I think it's Bootstrap tabs, maybe it's called. I forget, but it's something in Bootstrap though. Those they're basically links with a certain ID, and then Bootstrap, whichever one you clicks on, it makes it the active one. But it's definitely Bootstrap something.
Yeah, no, I thought it would be possible, but
Yeah, I haven't done anything like that.
if you know how, I'm not sure. I guess it depends how you use the staff interface. Really, different roles probably want different things by default. But
Yeah, no, I was trying to dig through my jQuery to see if I had anything, but the closest I have is like setting defaults in the advanced search filters, which is a select drop down rather than this tab thing. So I don't have anything.
I did think it
room.
would be nice to customize the toolbar at the top, but I think there's a bug for that that's been there forever, so people can have their own own links, organize the way they want it. And there hasn't been too many questions lately about customizing the look and feel of the staff interface, but I always get the impression that apart from the basic things like changing your logo and the colors, then yeah, you can spend a lot of time customizing things to make them look the way you want. But I don't know whether anyone goes to that length. I know, but
For us, it's more like customer driven, I guess you could say. Like when somebody wants something to work a certain way or look a certain way, then I go to the trouble but otherwise I sort of triage it away.
yeah.
I did see there was a conversation about adding snow that Brendan was involved in.
Yeah, I've seen that done in the past, but I can't remember. Yeah, but that would get a bit annoying after a while. I always find animations on the screen, they're all right for, oh, wow, that looks good. And then when you actually use it, it gets a bit annoying.
Oh, for sure. I've got some stuff that glows because I want them. Like, if they're not filling their holes, I make it glow because I want to be annoying, but I hate it when it comes up on my screen. I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I had to play setting up that curbside pickup, but there's nothing on the OPAC to let you the person say they would like, it's just a normal hold, and
Yeah.
then the library can stage the holds to be picked up. Yeah. Yeah, there's basically some tabs, and then they can schedule that hold for pickup in a time slot. But yeah, I don't know the interaction with patrons or whether there's notices. Sure, there must be some notices.
Yeah, so my thought was like if there's any little piece I could leverage, so like if I could put the word delivery in a hold note, then I could use that in the hold notification and like logic it in with some template toolkit to say if that delivery is the word delivery is in notes, then send a different message than if it's not. But I have to figure out how to put that piece to grab onto somewhere. It doesn't look like the circ desks show up in the OPAC either.
But at least there's a core there yeah, you can pick a slot. It's just the user interface probably.
Yeah.
Making it easier for patrons, I guess. Because yeah, I'd imagine if you place a hold, you could say, I'd like this tick box to say, send it to me or courier it, or however you want, however your service works, and then you would get something in the circulation, a report or something to say these ones want to be done, and then curbside, I guess you could, if you have couriers at a particular time that you have to have things ready by, then you schedule it for whatever day is pickup when it becomes available.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
I'll have to play with that.
then you'd have to have a little courier thing with the address, I guess.
Yeah.
And then returning stuff. It depends whether you let people give them a prepaid thing to return it, or whether they drop it in or something.
Yeah, so their plan right now is delivery only, and then the patron is still responsible for returning it.
Right. Yeah.
like through the Dropbox or something. But the address thing was this conversation we had too. Like, they're gonna have to have an address in their account that's accurate, or we won't be able to deliver. So, there has
Yeah,
to
I'd
be like
imagine you'd be
a
checking,
process
ringing
for
them up
that.
first to say, "Is this your address?"
Yeah.
Or you could prompt for it when, yeah, if there was a UI element to say, "Courier it to me," and here's my address, so please just confirm that that's your correct address. But yeah, it'd be nothing worse than sending all these things at your cost, and then they're going to their address from 10 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
There's still some stuff to work out there.
Yeah, and I know some special libraries. I know they, because they're centrally based and people are based around the country, people place holds and then they put them they have these special bags, courier bags, and with the return thing, they send it out, and then they've got the prepaid thing to send it back. I don't know how they manage it. The one I was thinking of, Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand, they they do that. So yeah, for their members, but um,
Yeah, we largely use just an internal courier system to go between libraries, but we don't have anything set up for library to patron. So this
all
library's
right.
taken it upon themselves to do that. Um, and we mail some stuff because we do still have some non-courier libraries, but that all happens at the cost to at cost to the library. And then we, as the system, we reimburse them some of that postage just to make sure that they hold up their end of the bargain. And I had a call just
Return.
yesterday about somebody, a new librarian called me and she's like, "How do I opt out of mailing stuff?" And I'm like, doesn't work like that. If they want your stuff, you have to share it because you get to borrow their stuff. So we try to soften the blow a little bit at least.
That's another thing I thought maybe you could have it be part of their patron record somehow, and then that would print out. But I guess that wouldn't solve the issue of them being able to request specifically that this one gets delivered. But
Yeah,
we have like
that's the trick.
homebound
Yeah.
patrons, and then that prints out on their hold slip so the library knows that this has to be delivered to the home.
Yeah, and like when they first approached me, I'm like, sure, we can do homebound. We've done that. That's easy. But then they're like, no, I want it to be every hold they get to decide if they want it delivered or not. Um, and the suggestion was made we should just loop into the actual Uber system so that the library can be a stop for an Uber delivery driver. But I think that would probably cost some money.
DoorDash.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool if you could pull it off where the patron could place their hold and then the delivery driver could pick it up and take
You
it.
could set up your drone delivery service.
Oh yeah, drones are big right now, so we do have a drone in the closet. I don't think it could probably carry a book though.
Yeah, you'd
The
need
little guy.
a carry bag underneath, waterproof, and then yeah. But some drones you can only go a few Ks, can't you? You lose signal. So
Yeah, and around here it would probably get shot down for sure. So
uh, um, I had a couple of ideas. They're pretty what's the word? Not developed very far, but I was thinking about process mapping for some of the processes in Koha, because sometimes when the really complicated things like circulation rules and some of the processes. So I was thinking a couple of bugs have had nice little process maps, but I was thinking we should potentially look at doing that more using proper business process management. There's some open source ones where you drag and drop all the things and have all the decision trees about how things happen. Because sometimes when there's sometimes some areas it always seems some unintended consequences when they change something, because there's this if or maybe or this other system preference. So, but just if my idea was that if you're going to change this bit, you'd look at the process map and see all the interactions and other things. But I'm not sure how feasible that would be. But at least just to map it out so people could agree that this is how it would work before they start coding. Because yeah, a lot of developers there, here's a solution, and I'm sure it's more sophisticated than that, but they just start coding, and then you go down a bit of a rabbit hole trying to figure out all the nuances. So I don't know whether that would be a useful thing to propose to the developers, but I don't know what you think.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, like we've definitely had that happen before where somebody puts in a bug on Bugzilla and says, I want it to work this way, and then the change gets made, and it doesn't really come to the surface until later that our workflow conflicts with the change and it's broken, and they've been better in recent years about making things like that a syspref toggle rather than just making the change. But it can still happen where like I have a weird workflow that gets fixed and then
And
then our
screws
workflow
up someone
breaks.
else's workflow.
Yeah.
Because
So
yeah.
it would be nice to have like and that would be helpful for like even new libraries coming up on Koha to see like the different options of this is how it could be done if you mapped out like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was also thinking about it for the manual as well, because when you're new to like cataloging or setting up Koha or some of the various modules, acquisitions comes to mind. It's a bit of sometimes a picture with a bit of a workflow helps explain things. So that's sort of not just for developers, but I was thinking about it for diagrams and for the manual as well, to say this is how this works, and or supposed to work anyway. Yeah, okay. I'll put a bit of work into it. I've got lots of other things I said I'd do, so I better do those first. But
I
I
don't
think
know
that
anything
that's a
about
really
that.
good idea just for onboarding and being able to grow the number of people who can test and fix bugs, because um to me that's like a big kind of it's a steep learning curve, or like a big hurdle to get over, just like how in general does Koha go about doing its thing, and there's no, it's not really documented anywhere other than just like going through the code and trying to figure it out yourself. Like there's a lot of I guess the developers kind of know how it all, maybe because some of them have been working on it for 20 years, so they know how it works. But it's not like, it's not very clear unless you have that experience and knowledge.
yeah, and you don't want to say it, but there's probably kludges been. I will just make this work, and we'll go back. We'll fix it up properly later.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure that doesn't happen anywhere else in any other software product. Yeah. Oh, cool. I'll add it to my list of things to propose. But yeah, there's some online tools you can use to just sketch out the process maps, and at least you guess people would be talking about the same thing and say, "Oh no, it does this," and then you can up fix it. Yeah. Anyway, I think it might be useful to pursue. And the other idea I had, and that's more for testing, but so not really web development, but was this idea of sometimes when you're testing bugs, the person writing the test plan is intimately familiar with how this works, but library or people who haven't used a particular module say, this is all foreign. Your one line, do this, and all the things you need to set up to make it work. Is challenging. And obviously we always can ask the the writers of the test plan to expand a bit. But I thought some of the common things I was going to call it koha testing instructions, and kitty for short, cataloging kitty. I don't know whether, anyway, but it would be a sort of like the coding guidelines where you have, JS1, JS2. So for a particular thing, say like setting up recalls, if you've not used recalls, it's like, well, I don't know how to set up recalls. You could just have that and say, set up in the test plan, they could say set up recalls and then have a link on the wiki or something to KT001, and then that would tell you the steps to set things up. It's more a short code, really. You still have to know how to set it up, but and some of the circulation rules, I sometimes avoid testing anything to do with circulation, because I think here be dragons sometimes. So, but I don't know. Do you think that would be a useful thing to propose? Yeah.
I think it could be really useful, like, because for me, like the test plans are what I'm looking for when I'm trying to test a bug, because there's a bunch of bugs I'm interested in, but the test plan is just kind of vague or not really there. So I just pass over those ones. Not that I'm not interested, but it's just like I don't know how to proceed. So I could see kind of like how there's on the wiki there's the SQL library and the template toolkit library, could be like the test plan library, and it could help. I'm thinking of like developers where English is not their first language and stuff, maybe, or just anybody really could reference like some pre-made test plans for certain things, and kind of be like a guide how to make a good test plan for, and they could sometimes copy and paste some of the steps even.
Yeah, that's a good enhancement to that. Yeah. No, I think okay. I'll have a look at proposing that as well at some stage. Yeah. Ones I think of like SIP as it's very arcane, isn't it? The instructions you send and I'm fine testing them if someone says exactly, you should put this in and you'll get this thing back, and if that's what it is, that's okay. But the rest of it, I don't really understand. But anyway, but there's a few areas like that in Koha. Yeah.
It'd also be
Yeah, like
helpful in like certain sections. So like if the bug is about testing mark or something, having like sample test files along with the test plan. So some dummy mark files or dummy patrons or whatever that specifically are coded to interact with the bug testing.
Yeah, I always find that really useful when some of the mark bug, when you've got a record with all these really obscure cataloging things like analytics, I think comes to mind, which is way over my head. But if you've got a record that demonstrates whatever the issue is, rather than saying create a record with XYZ, it's like, but just having a sample record. Some people do that. It's really useful. Owen and Nick and a couple others have done that quite a lot. So yeah, which is really helpful, particularly for some of those cataloging ones where you're really delving into mark land. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I think
just
like example files are also a good thing to go along with that, like those mark files that are included on some test plans. And I was also thinking possibly one thing that I've been using for helping to test things a little bit, and also to kind of make it easier for using Koha testing Docker kind of pre-configured to how our production system is a little bit is I learned at the KohaCon Montreal, you can put a folder in your Koha repository called shared, and then you can put a custom.sql file in there, and then you can set like a bunch of system preference variables to certain values. So when you launch Koha testing Docker, it presets a bunch of system preferences. And that's really been helpful for me as I'm going through some of these things, like, oh, I can put that into the SQL so that it's automatically going to be like that when I start up Koha testing Docker. You don't have to go back in and set a bunch of system preferences.
That could be really useful. So like for the recalls example, like if you could have a file included where you could include it that just sets up recalls for you and then you can test.
Yeah, so if there's like a certain thing that you need to touch like 5 system preferences to set up, you could just have that as a SQL and it would say update system preferences set blah 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 where the variable is this, and then you can do it all in like line after line in that file, and you just launch Koha and it's got all the system preferences that you need for the test plan already set.
Cool. Yeah, another way which it really helped testing all the interlibrary loan bugs is the PTF Europe people. They had a little snippet in a little file on their GitHub or GitLab account, and you just curl it, and it would set the system. You just put in curl and the URL and some things, and it would set the system preference for IRL, the ILL. The odd way, you had to set up an ILL backend and turn on the system preference, and then create some sample requests and things like that. But it just a one-liner, and it went away and just ran all these things, and was really handy rather than figuring out all the things to do it. So yeah. But I didn't know about that one with that's the Brendan with setting up your sample as SQL to do it as well. It seems similar. Yeah, seems like a good idea, because you want people to test the thing. You don't want them to spend you don't want to spend all their time testing, setting up all these things, and then if it doesn't work, and then you have to do it next time, it comes back for
Then you have to do it all
sign
again.
off.
That's where like it really made me want to do it this other way, because I was finding like, okay, every time I need to go back in here, I need to remember, I have to find where it was documented, all the different things you have to set up. And then it's like copying and pasting all those things, searching through and setting the system preferences. And it takes a lot of time. So it's kind of, it can be used for that. And it could also be used for just like setting some of the system preferences up to make it easier for you. Like, so you can turn off like the strong password doesn't have to be required. So then if you're testing anything where you have to log in as a patron, you just use like a 1234 as the password. And there's a few different like little things like that. You can set, you could set up your test patrons and your staff patrons how you want them to be. You could even potentially like set specific permissions to match kind of permissions in your production server if you want to like be able to test like, okay, this is what at least in our system we using like kind of we defined roles for cataloging and circ supervisor, regular circ kind of thing. So you could set it up so when you launch Koha testing Docker, you have a user with specific permissions, so you can go in and test things out. I want to try to kind of narrow down like some good examples of that maybe, and I can share at the maybe we can share at the baby dev sig. I can example that.
Yeah, and really good things to make it easier to, if you want to test these things or you want them to be well tested. So, and I think Owen, he uses his own sample data. So, I guess that would be quite, having your own config somehow so that you could test it out without having to replicate your production environment. If it was an important bug for you. Yeah. Anyway, good ideas. Oh,
Yeah, and
something
I think it could help you
to produce, because you want librarians and others to test these bugs, but if it test plan's obscure, it puts you off and makes it harder. So you want to make it easier.
and like you just wouldn't notice. Maybe you're using Koha testing Docker every day, but you're not using a bunch of different system preferences configured in any anyway. So then you're not going to notice something that you could have noticed really easily. For example, there was a regression. In our consortia, we have library groups set up, and they're allowed to edit other libraries in their group. They're allowed to edit each other's items, but they can't edit outside of their group. And that was working. I think it was a new feature in 23.11, and then it's right now. It's currently broken, but it's fixed for 24.11. So we'll get the fix, I think, in February. But it's something that I'm thinking, how can I make it so that I can launch Koha testing Docker in a way that's like got some of these things set up that I can easily test things and consistently test the main with a somewhat similar setup to our production environment. Because I think I'm never gonna go into Koha testing Docker and like set up library groups every time and stuff like that. But if I could just have it be like, oh, I want to test, have it start up like ready to go, it'd be much easier to kind of do that.
Cool. I think it is a useful discussion. Yeah, I have lots of, I guess a lot of people, you have lots of ideas, but you don't know whether they'll be useful or not, or whether you're just trying to solve your own problem rather than make it easier for everyone. Anyway.
Well, we've reached
Okay.
almost the end of the
I
meeting.
pasted
Go ahead.
in the chat. I pasted a thing. Oh, I think he's.
Yep, no, I've seen that. Thanks. Yeah, we managed to fill in an hour, not talking about web dev things, but
That's okay. It'll be a fun
I think
recording
testing
to
is a
do.
big part of web dev, though.
Yeah. No, it's good
nice
discussion.
tangent. Yeah, tangents. We'd never go down tangents or rabbit holes, would we?
Mhm. All right. Well, I think we can probably wrap this one up, and we will meet again in January, as far as I know. So, same bat time, same bat channel, third Thursday, at whatever time it is for you.
This time was quite good for me. It was in the morning, not at 4 a.m. It's 7 o'clock. So it was quite, it must have, is it always the same time, or is it just daylight savings kicked in? Yeah.
Oh, probably daylight savings
Yeah.
affected it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's nice to be able to come along where I don't have to be up half asleep. So anyway, thanks, Jason.
Yep. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Happy holidays.
Thank
You
you.
too.